Of course. And I'm just going to ask you, how is the delay?
It's pretty bad, but we can cut it out. Hi, I'm Anne Buick from Caliber's Sustainability Solutions team. We're excited to take Caliber's Product Spotlight series to the US today, where we are joined by Kathy Hannun, a leader in the green tech industry abroad. Kathy is the founder and president of Dandelion Energy, a Google X spin-off that wants to make geothermal heating and cooling systems more accessible and affordable for homeowners in the US. Dandelion aims to displace millions of expensive and polluting oil furnaces in areas where they are widely used, namely the northeastern states like New York, where Kathy is based and where she joins us today. Hey, Kathy, how you going?
Very well. Thank you so much for having me.
So Dandelion's meteoric rise since it was established in 2017 has seen the company labelled as the next solar after record-breaking capital raising rounds. What was the inspiration behind your game-changing company?
The inspiration was actually inspired by solar. So we've seen in the last decade, maybe a little bit more now, that hundreds of thousands of homes have converted to rooftop solar because they can actually save money on electricity by doing that. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that well over 75% of the energy used in a typical home in a cold climate comes actually from fuels. It doesn't come from electricity, because a lot of homes don't use electricity to heat. They use fuel oil or propane or natural gas. That's a huge source of emissions that we'll need to figure out how to counter. And the thing that is so appealing about geothermal is it's just like by far the most efficient way to heat or cool a home. So then our question became, why are these systems so expensive to install today? And is there anything we can do to make them a lot less expensive?
So you're a civil engineer by trade. So you studied engineering at Stanford, and then you went into Google, where you worked as a product manager for several years. So where and when did the geothermal story start for you?
It actually started when I got an email from a software engineer at Google who was based in New York. And this email wasn't just to me, it was to a whole listserv of Googlers who were interested in energy. And he just emailed all of us and made a very impassioned case for why geothermal was the most, the biggest opportunity to invest in order to have an impact on climate. So I read it with interest, and sort of it started my journey of learning more about geothermal.
Wow. Okay. You've been in the game for what, three and a half years now. What are some of the lessons you've learned about the uptake of renewable energy solutions in general and geothermal specifically in the US market that you believe have relevance for the entire world?
Well, I do think that one of the big lessons I've learned is there's so much value in just focusing on a specific type of house to start. And then once you get the cost down for that type of house, you go to the next type and work on that problem. And then slowly you incrementally sort of increase the variety of homes that you can take on. And I think that's one of the challenges with geothermal, is that every building's different. The regulations in every place are different. And so it actually becomes very challenging to try to do it all at once. So it's been very effective to just take the problem step by step and really try to figure out, how do I solve this one use case really well first before moving on? Another lesson learned is there's just so much that we don't know about the ground, like how well it exchanges heat and what's down there and what's going on, really, like how do ground loops work? And I think all of that mystery is actually a huge opportunity. What we found is that now that we've installed a few hundred systems, we're actually learning a lot about the ground and how it works, and we can apply that to make the next systems less expensive and work even better. And so that's really encouraging, because it just has enabled us to get better and better over time.
So in terms of the key factors that motivate your customers to choose to switch from traditional energy sources and upgrade to geothermal, how much is based on the cost benefits and how much do you think comes down from people's genuine desire to do what's right for the environment?
My impression so far is that the cost benefit is of paramount importance. So almost everyone really cares about the cost benefit, as you would imagine. I mean, a lot of people don't have a lot of extra money to put in their heating system. There are just so many competing priorities in life. So, but that said, I think that we see so much interest, and when the cost benefit is there, we have very high uptake because when it saves you money, everyone wants to do what's best for the environment, and that's really what I think the magic of geothermal is that it aligns those incentives in a way that's really important.
What are the biggest misconceptions that you've encountered about geothermal?
I do think it's a little hard to understand how the ground can heat your home because the ground is not that warm, right? And so just making it clear to homeowners, geothermal heats your home to whatever temperature you want. You can use your thermostat just like you ever have. And it's
Yes.
not like we're heating your house to the temperature of the ground. We're
Yep.
just collecting heat within the ground and then using it to heat your house to a comfortable temperature, whatever temperature you want. So that's
Yes.
one misconception that we have to counter.
That's great. And I think you do a good job with that on your website. You've got some really clear messaging and some great infographics and animations for
Ooh, thank
customers to
you.
easily understand. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome? And um, speaking personally, in my geothermal journey, it's just educating customers about how the technology works. But for you, was it raising capital for a niche product in America, or was it being a female entrepreneur? Yeah, what were some of those challenges?
For sure. I mean, you have very good intuition about what the challenges were. I would say yes. Raising capital was very challenging, especially because the company is unique, right? Like there aren't a lot of startups trying to raise venture capital to start heating and cooling companies for homes. And honestly, I think that's a strength of the company. We're doing something truly different and in a huge market. So for the investors that have invested in us, they see that and therefore have invested. But I would say they've been the rare exceptions that have appreciated that. Most investors are just a little bit intimidated by the category, like energy, residential, physical products and homes. It's all a little bit unfamiliar. And then I do think that I I experienced the challenges that I think many working people experience, like entrepreneur or not, just demanding job and then also trying to be a great parent and a great wife and a great daughter. It's just like man or woman, I feel like that is a very hard thing to figure out. But I will say that one benefit of working in geothermal is that I don't have any doubt that the work is meaningful. And so when I do have on the occasions where I do have to sacrifice some time in my personal life for the business, I do feel at least like fulfilled by the work and that it's important and it means something to me. But I do very much try to not sacrifice too much to the business.
Can you share one of your favorite stories about what switching to geothermal has meant for one of your Dandelion customers?
I think some of the customers that are inspiring to me are the ones that once they've switched to geothermal, they just don't use any more fossil fuels in their homes. Like we have some customers that have solar, they've already sort of like gotten away from using grid electricity for their appliances and everything, but they still had a natural gas furnace or a fuel oil furnace or whatever. And so it's like really rewarding when you see that home switch to geo and that home will not be consuming fossil fuels going forward. I think the other type of customer that I really get inspired by is when we have a customer where paying for fuel and just the volatility of fuel prices and the uncertainty around how much they would have to pay was a real financial hardship.
Yep.
And then we switched to Geo, and they have this very predictable bill, and it's actually like a huge source of savings and financial security. And the reason that that case is so great is just because it's really not, it's like that's exactly what our mission is as a company. That really hasn't been the case with geothermal in the past, where it could be a budget choice like that. It's just been such a luxury system in the past. So, you know, the more of that type of customer we can get, the more successful we'll be.
Where do you see the geothermal industry in the next 10 years? Where do you hope to be?
I think that what we've seen for solar is a good map for where we can expect geo to go in the next decade. So first, I just see it becoming much more familiar. You know, like everyone will know somebody who has it.
Yep.
It'll be less mysterious. I think we'll begin to see geothermal in lots of different types of buildings, which I understand is already happening where you are. But you know, it won't just be homes. It'll be businesses. It'll be schools. It'll be, you know, commercial and industrial. And I think also we'll just see more of a ecosystem of companies. So one example that I give sometimes is in the solar world, there are really successful companies that specialize in like the roof racks that go on the roof that you put the solar panels on. Like you can build a really successful solar company that just analyzes shade from trees. You know, it's just there are all these niches within that industry because it's so large. And that's really helpful because then every company gets the benefit of that specialization. But in Geo, we don't have that at all yet. So I think hopefully we'll just see more companies enter the space and really specialize in different elements of the installs, and that will also drive the cost way down.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring story. You know, as the world comes together for the climate, with countries pledging to slash carbon emissions and invest in renewable climate-friendly technologies like geothermal, we'll be closely following you and Dandelion's progress. So we wish you all the best. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.